Okay, so here's a very small exercise which I do maybe 2 or 3 times a week to help clear my mind and encourage my creativity. It's called the fragile line, and it really is easy, and you can take it anywhere you want to go. Actually starting some piece of artwork is probably the hardest thing to do. So this is a little exercise just to try and clear our minds a little bit. What we want to do is take this very intimidating piece of white paper and put ourselves into it. We're going to do that by doing this. Scrunching it up, getting rid of all your frustrations, anxieties, anger. Push it in there until it's about the size of a golf ball. And then very, very carefully, as though it was a butterfly emerging from a cocoon, just unravel it without tearing it. Smooth it out on the table, and then you have a piece of paper full of interesting lines, shadows to use. Start on one edge and just trace a line, as though you are walking through hills and valleys and mountains. Take your time. It can take all day, it can take 5 minutes, it can take 30 seconds, but take your time just to enjoy the journey. This is very much a mindfulness process of just cleansing and clearing our thoughts, thinking of things in a different way. So you've drawn something that you never would have drawn because you're reacting to the paper. You can turn the paper over and even try and find different shapes in there that you might want to do, creating your own kind of mosaic or pattern in there. And once you've got those patterns and shapes, there's nothing to stop you grabbing some colours if you want to, and to start colouring in those shapes as well. This is purely to stop us thinking about having to represent something, like, putting a vase in front of us and drawing that vase. Just a way of enjoying, playing, exploring how lines work, how colours work, to find a way of freeing up our imagination. Okay, so we've got our materials, we've got our sketchbook. How do we actually kind of make some marks, put some marks into there? Well, collage is always a good thing to do anyway. So collage is one way to actually grab found images already and put them in there. But if we're going to start making our own marks and observing, here are 2 ways to kind of think about how we actually put something in there and why we put something in there, what lines we use, what colours we use, what textures we use. So very simply, we're going to look at some emotional mark making, okay, that's what we kind of use for different kind of feelings and emotions that we're going to do, and also do some shading, how shading works in principle. So here we are. We have our sketchbook. So hopefully it's looking a little bit battered and bruised because you've been carrying it around with you everywhere you go. We're going to write a couple of words. Choose any emotions that you'd like to explore. I'm going to choose peaceful and angry. And then I'm going to look for colours that, for me, sum up what it is to be peaceful. I'm going for a turquoisey, tealy colour, and I'm going horizontal lines, just backwards and forwards. And then I'm going to use a more baby blue, pale blue. So really what I'm doing is looking at a sea and the sky and the horizon, which is a very peaceful thing to me to look at. So that for me represents peaceful. I'm very happy with that. Now then, angry. So I've chosen a black, and I'm doing hard. I'm digging into the paper, red as well for danger and anger, a little bit of smudging just to mess it up. So those 2 very different looking squares to try and encapsulate my emotions simply using colour and line. Good luck. If you want to try and use shading to actually represent something that's like 3-dimensional, with the light coming in from one side, creating shadows, we use a thing called values, which is a scale from light through to dark. And I'm going to choose a 5-point scale here. This is the one that I use all the time. And 1 is always going to be clear, white, open. 5 is always going to be the darkest. 3 is going to be your midway. I'm just using the side of the pencil here just to shade as we get darker and darker. So there's a grade from light through to dark, and that's our shading. Another way of looking at that, which is easier I think to do, is cross-hatching. This is a very common technique for all artists, whether you're doing ink or pencil. You basically start off doing straight lines in one direction, usually diagonal. To make it darker, we use vertical, and even darker still, we use horizontal. So the final one has 4 sets of lines crossing each other. Go shade something. Good luck.